an international speaker, Jennifer, as one of the last speaker in the series. Because we chose microfinance because we have this topic speakers last year. It's Herman Poe. He's also here today to share his experience again in China, especially the experience in China. So I don't have much talk about on microfinance because I'm not an expert. But I would like to share with you about the climate change that recently is a hot topic from the Copenhagen 15 Congress. And climate change lead to microfinance has a very close relationship. Do you know why? Because of the climate, the temperature, when it rises 1 degree Celsius, it will cause a weather change. The weather change will jeopardize most of the poorest countries, especially the Asian countries like Sri Lanka and tsunami, typhoon. Any disasters will be, attacking the countries and regions, and people will be suffer. And climate change is closely related to microfinance. And more, if we can have more control in the climate, then we can have a better operation in the microfinance. So I would like to take this occasion to present some souvenir to our guest speakers. Please welcome Jennifer. And Herman. So let's have a big hand to have our first guest speaker, Jennifer Behan, to share.
Thank you so much for inviting me today, Mingles and everyone, and for joining us on what is a very lovely Saturday, and it's probably a bit difficult to be inside this afternoon. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Mian. I'm the CEO for the Asia region for Gurmeen Foundation, which is an NGO that seeks to enable the poor, especially the poorest, to create a world without poverty. I started my career in the formal financial sector. I worked in New York and came to Asia, Singapore in 1996. And during the last financial crisis, I made the transition from sort of commercial finance, commercial business, to social finance and social enterprise. I've been working in microfinance since 1998. I've lived in Asia for the last 15 years in a variety of different places: Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong twice, Tokyo, and Shanghai. I moved because of my husband. He is in finance, and he has the macro salary, and I'm in finance, and I have the micro salary. So we follow my husband. In any case, it's a real pleasure to be here with all of you today. The interest I've seen in social enterprise in Hong Kong over the last year in particular has been incredibly exciting. The idea that we can create a better world through business means, I think, lends itself to a huge amount of potential that we've not been able to realize in recent decades. What I want to talk to you today, however, is about specifically using business to attack what is one of the biggest challenges we face in our world today, and that is poverty. To kind of get our conversation started, what I want to do is actually get all of you involved, just for 1 second. I'm going to have everyone count out 1, 2, 1, 2, and the ones all have to stand up. So can I start? Okay. 2, Herman. Stand up, Herman. Jason, you're standing. Okay. Okay. You're 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Keep going around. You're 1.
1.
Yep, you're 1. We see you're a 2. 1 in the white shirt. Yeah. Okay, keep going. You guys can count it off. I know. You're a 2. Your neighbor can be a 1. Okay. I promise there is a purpose. Okay, excellent. So I think if you just look around the room, it's a bit funny because we don't have a full room. 7 billion, let's say you all represent the 7 billion people in the world today. Half of the world lives under the international poverty line of $2.50 a day. Every single one of you standing essentially represents, in this room today, someone who lives under the international poverty line of $2.50. I'm going to make you stand up for a little bit longer. What does that mean? That means someone who probably has periods where they are able to feed themselves well, but periods that are very lean and where they may struggle to eat properly or to eat a very nutritious or balanced diet. Their home is probably made of some permanent materials, but not all. They're probably sending some of their children to school. Certainly not all, and probably the girls are the ones who are not. They probably don't have consistent sources of income. Now I want everyone from this group over just to sit down. Okay? A quarter of the people in our world today live on less than $1.25 a day. $1.25 per day. That's about a quarter of the people in this room. That's someone who is definitely not eating nutritiously and probably not eating meals every day. This is people whose children are probably not in school. They may be working. Their homes are not made of permanent materials. They're probably made of branches, not with any kind of solid walls. When we talk about microfinance and why it's powerful, it's because we want to reach all of those people who are standing, but especially those of you who are left standing. So I'd like to actually ask everyone to sit down again, but just to give you a feel of the quantums and orders of magnitude of poverty in our world today. In terms of just absolute numbers, I really want to just give you a feel for where poverty is and actually what it is. It's not just total numbers. We have to really understand where does it exist, how, and why. When you look at poverty in our world, it's actually concentrated in relatively few countries. These countries represent countries where Green Foundation works, so I'll come to this in one moment. But to give you a high-level overview, what are called the BINC countries, Bangladesh, India, Nigeria, and China, represent 2/3 of the world's poor. If you add Pakistan, Indonesia, and Brazil, that's 90% of the world's poor. So the concentration in terms of numbers is in those few countries and heavily concentrated in Asia. If you look at countries in terms of what we call relative poverty, what percentage of the population is actually living in poverty, that's heavily concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. Countries like Zambia, 78% of the population lives below the poverty line. Unfortunately, Nigeria has the unfortunate distinction of being represented in terms of absolute numbers. I think it's around 90 million people who live below the poverty line, but also in terms of relative poverty, it's somewhere between 70 and 75% of the population. So I just want to highlight Asia, in particularly the countries that are here. India, Indonesia, Philippines, China, and Pakistan. These countries represent 60% of the world's poor and 55% of the world's poor as based on the measures, economic measures that I've been talking about. These are the countries that I represent in our region and that we focus on in terms of using microfinance to try to impact poverty.